What's up, guys? Chandler here, and today I'm going to be talking about things that have helped me make fat loss easier, I would say, or less hard. So, the first thing I would start off with saying is caffeine, specifically black coffee, diet soda, artificial sweeteners, non caffeinated beverages such as Blue Powerade, zero sugar, anything zero calorie is going to help kind of deal with that hunger. So, just having something sweet or having something going in you can help make fat loss easier because you're keeping yourself busy, you're giving yourself that little hit of sweetness that you're not getting elsewhere, and you're keeping your stomach full, especially with diet soda and black coffee. I've tend to notice that I'm less hungry in the morning when I consume these things. So the reason why I also mentioned non-caffeinated beverages is I would recommend, if you're having caffeine in your fat loss diet, to not have anything past 12 o'clock or lunch or whatever fits in your schedule. Typically just 10 hours before your sleeping period, like the time that you're going to go to bed, because caffeine can disrupt sleep, and sleep can be pretty crucial during fat loss. So I wouldn't want to disrupt that in any way. Sometimes you'll tell people, hey, have caffeine, and then they'll have a gram of caffeine a day, and then they're not getting any sleep, they're not recovering, and they're not going to be able to train efficiently, right? So anything zero sugar, if you don't like caffeine and you're real sensitive to it, you can just do non-caffeinated diet soda, zero sugar Powerade, getting in a bunch of electrolytes, just feeling better. And one thing I've noticed that I struggle a lot with when I'm doing a fat loss is trying to do like flexible dieting, aka eating junk food. So the problem with junk food is it's so calorie dense that, say if I have a honey bun, that's 560 calories. That's like 6 eggs. 6 eggs are going to fill you so much more than a honey bun, and you're getting so many more micronutrients. You're getting your protein in with eggs. So typically I would recommend high protein, whole satiating foods. But from time to time, if you want to have a Pop-Tart and things of this nature, as long as it fits in your calories and you don't tend to binge eat on these things and they're going to help you out, make it more sustainable, then it's okay to have these things. But typically, from what I've noticed, is like if I have a bag of chips, I want more chips. If I have cookies, I want more cookies. So me, I like keeping whole foods, and I don't like having calorie drinks such as protein shakes or whole milk. I don't like these things because they're adding calories through a liquid basis, and it's not helping satiate me. I would rather have all my calories come from whole foods and my beverages being zero sugar diet products or caffeinated products. So yeah, with that helps a lot. And another fat loss tip I would say is intermittent fasting helps a lot of people. It helps me a lot because I work and I get up at about 5:30 in the morning, and I notice at 5:30 in the morning I'm typically not hungry until about 10 o'clock. So normally what I'll do is I won't eat until about 10 or 11 o'clock. I don't want to be ravenously hungry, but I just want to go as long as I can without eating, to the point where I can have more of my calories later in the day, because it helps me sleep better if I have a big meal probably 2 hours before bed. So intermittent fasting can help. If you have the willpower to do it, you could do longer fast, like a 16 8-hour fast. Me, I don't have the willpower to do that. I don't like doing that. I get ravenously hungry, and I'm a big guy, so it's hard for me to get all my protein in just one meal a day kind of thing. So usually I shoot for about 2 or 3 meals, but that can help you a lot, because the problem is if you're having breakfast, then that's going to slowly lower and taper your calories towards the end of the day, where you're not having that many calories at night. Me, I like having like 1,200 calories at night because I want to be full. It helps me sleep better. And typically you're going to get to a point where you're going to be hungry anyway, so it just helps me to leverage that food at night when I'm sleeping. So another thing is prepare to be hungry. I mean, there's no way to slice it. You're going to be hungry parts of the day, and the deeper you get in this fat loss phase, that hunger is going to increase a bit. So the thing with hunger is you have to know that it's going to be there, because this is what I want people to understand, is that fat loss is simple, but it is not easy. Just because something is simple does not mean it's easy. We know how to get there. We have all the science to get there. We know what to do if we're not losing weight anymore. We know how to keep muscle on, but it's going to be hard, guys. I mean, when you're losing fat, losing weight, you're by definition in a calorie deficit. You're giving your body less than it needs, less than it requires to sustain its weight. So expect to be hungry. It doesn't mean that hunger is going to be throughout the entire day, but it will be there from time to time. And I like reframing my mind to, okay, this is here, I'm hungry, but that means progress. That means I'm achieving my goal. That doesn't mean I'm starving, because heck, people have done year-long fasts and have drunk plenty of water and have survived off this just by supplementing. So we know we're not gonna die, especially if you have a lot of subcutaneous fat on your body, because that's energy, that's calories on your body, and that's what we want to come off. So that hunger means progress. So reframe your mind and say, okay, this is a good signal. This is what I want. This is how I can attain my goal. This is what I'm shooting for. This was to be expected. Don't try and cheat hunger to the point where you think you're never going to be hungry, because if you walk into this phase of fat loss, whether it be 3 months, whether it be to a year, and you're like, oh man, this is easy, I'm so dedicated, I'm so motivated right now, that motivation is going to wear off. And it's going to get to a point where you need to have discipline, and you need to expect that hunger, and you should prepare for it to be hard. It doesn't mean that it's going to be hard all the time, but we do know that when we're trying to shoot for a goal that not most people can achieve, we can know there's a reason why most people are not achieving this goal. It's because it is hard. A lot of it is misinformation too, but that's why I'm here, to cut through the crowd, right? To give you the information that you need to achieve your goals. So the next thing I would say is, do not cut your calories so low and try and lose weight so fast that you're going to wind up binge eating. Like me, I'm a 6'3" male who weighs 220 pounds. I do not need to start my diet off with 1,400 calories and 200 grams of protein. I mean, usually when I'm running a fat loss phase, I'm starting at about 2,700 calories and roughly 170 to 180 grams of protein. And I feel much better that way. But when people try and cut their calories way too low and do this way too fast, the statistics and the studies show that that leads to binge eating, right? It doesn't mean that there isn't a time to lose weight fast, but it should not be the entirety of your diet, especially if it's your first fat loss phase. You haven't built up that discipline. You haven't built that knowledge. You haven't felt what it is to be truly hungry. So you want to ease into this process. Think about when you're in school, right? They start you off and they teach you how to write your name. They're slowly teaching you this stuff that leads to bigger problems. But you don't start a kindergartner on Algebra 2. You don't start them off on Spanish. So don't try and do what the bodybuilders do and rapidly lose fat, or do what the influencers do. Because actual professional bodybuilders, they are so concerned about maintaining their muscle mass and achieving a desirable look when they will have to get on stage, that they have built up the tools and the discipline to know when to cut aggressively, when to cut slow, when to up the calories, when to lower the calories, when to taper it slowly over time. You don't know that. You haven't built up that skill, so I would recommend starting off slow, even if it's half a pound a week. That means progress, because let's say if you're in your 30s or 40s or any age and you can get to your goal in a year instead of 3 months. Let's say if you're 42, do you plan on dying at 43? Most people would say no. So at 43, would we rather get slowly to our goal and achieve it? Or would we rather crash diet at 42, 2 months in, and then regain all that fat loss and regain even extra fat on top of what we lost in that next month, and keep yo-yo dieting and never be able to put on muscle mass, never be able to run a proper surplus because you didn't build up the habits and the requirements of going slow during this fat loss phase. So yeah, man, I mean, know your experience level. If you know you can do a rapid fat loss phase and taper your training and do everything right and maintain muscle mass, go ahead. You've built up that discipline, you've built up that skill, you have the know-how. There's nothing wrong with that. But if this is your first fat loss phase, do not cut your calories too low. I have a separate video on where your calories need to be, how to track your body weight on the scale, and how to program your training. So that's it. And another tip I would recommend, do not do crazy amounts of cardio. If you want to shoot for 6,000 to 10,000 steps a day, that's fine. But the studies have shown that cardio, it can add to fat loss, but by a very minor degree. And the reason why this is our body will compensate for the amount of movement and activity that we're doing during the day, because your body knows when you're giving it less. So let's say if you get on the treadmill and it said you burnt 700 calories, you might have only burnt 200 calories because your body's compensating due to that deficit. So a majority of your fat loss should not come from activity. It should be coming from the diet. So don't do rapid amounts of cardio, because if you go out and run a mile and you already are strictly dieting, it's going to make you want to binge eat, lead to more cravings, and you're wearing your body out, and your body's going to want to compensate more because you're expecting your body to do more and you're giving it less. It's like putting less gas in your car and expecting it to go a farther distance than what you have given it to go. So yeah, don't do excessive cardio. And that's really about it. The only other thing that I can think of that has hindered my progress in the past is trying to set a goal body weight. So like, I remember when I was 220 and I was like, man, when I get down to 210, I'm gonna be shredded. That's all I'm gonna need. That's the only amount of fat I'm gonna have to lose. And it was double that. And that can be really painful and hard to realize, is like your goal body weight that you think you're going to have to get to achieve a certain body composition is probably double that. So let's say you think you need to lose 20 pounds, you might have to actually lose 40, because fat blends in with muscle and makes you look bigger than you actually think you are. And yeah, so don't go in there with a set goal body weight unless you have a specific body weight that you need to meet for a certain requirement. So just ride this wave, take your time, make sure your protein's where it needs to be, your calories are where they need to be. I have videos for that. Make sure your training is on point. Your weight training is very important during this fat loss phase, so you do not lose muscle mass, because any weight loss is not what we want. What we want is fat loss. We want the proper body composition. So if you're not weight training, you will lose muscle mass, and you're going to look worse the more you lose weight if that weight loss is not coming from fat. So that's really it for this one, guys. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna sit up here and give you a bunch of recommendations of things that don't actually work. But my number one tip to you is quit trying to cheat the process. Like I said, it's simple. I'm giving you the tools that you need, but expect for it to be hard, and that's the reality of fat loss. All right, I'll catch y'all on the next one.